just physical, mental, spiritual. Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. It's going to be a little different. I'm going to be very informal. I really would appreciate questions if you have questions or comments, because I'm a little lost with this one. Obviously, we as a nation and world, really, because I've seen the reaction of people across the world, witnessed and experienced the death of somebody who, in my opinion, didn't deserve it. Which I'm just floored at the people who, are losing their jobs and getting, kicked out of school and things like that for actually applauding the death of Charlie Kirk. And it's going to be very controversial. I don't want to get political here. There's probably going to be some things I'll say because of just my opinion and what I believe. I think we're being lied to a lot, and I've talked about that with our food industry and the vaccines and things like that. So I know that, again, you can debate me if you want, as far as and I'm open to it. Of course, I definitely want to hear. I'm, again, much like Charlie Kirk. I think that Charlie was very, very open-minded. He wanted to hear your opinion, and then he wanted to debate with you. And so we've come to a position where we're living in a country who is being divided, and I hope you can see that, and not in a good way, clearly, but we're being divided politically, racially, you name it, spiritually. We're being divided, and it's obvious. And I think that you think about the third world country type of attitudes and the beliefs that those countries have, and we're killing somebody for their opinions and their strong, arguments. And again, I have not seen any hate things from Charlie Kirk. And again, we'll talk about this, but I definitely want a bigger mindset and a broader sort of form of information that I can kind of digest, because I'm very confused. I'm confused about a lot of stuff, but. With that said, we'll break just real quick for a word from our sponsor, and then we'll get right into it. We'll talk a little bit about how to deal with death. I think there's very good things happening because of Charlie Kirk's legacy. We'll say I believe that there's a lot more people out there that are making changes in their lives because of what happened and what's happening in our world today. And we'll get into that when we come back after this brief word from our sponsor.
At 3, we want to give you the true health benefits that you're paying for, something you can feel and see a difference quickly. Each product is packed with powerful plant-based nutrients that are combined through a proprietary curation process and then infused with innovative cellular absorption technologies to ensure the nutrients absorb into the cells for maximum wellness. The quality and effectiveness of our life-changing products is evident by their approval to be included in the well-known Prescriber's Digital Reference, or PDR. The PDR has been a valuable resource to the medical doctors and providers in the healthcare community for decades. Our products are GMO-free, clinically studied, and third-party tested, all designed to support health and proactive wellness for everyone.
Welcome back. I, just thinking prior even to getting on the show, talking with Jason, my producer, about Charlie, and kind of we're even going to talk a little bit about after the show, about getting his point of view on this whole thing as well. And I love it. I love the dialogue. I love and again, Charlie at one point, maybe many points, had said that as soon as communication stops, things are going to start to, you're going to find trouble, in their marriage. If you can't communicate, there's something wrong, and things are going to go downhill. In your job, if you don't communicate with your boss, whatever, there's a lot of things, things that can happen. And so I think just having the opportunity to have an open dialogue about a subject without getting offended, that's a tough one. And I do understand why. But I want to understand where people are coming up with the ideas and kind of their opinions, and why why are people celebrating his death? First off, and again, talking about what I think has changed, and I think I watch a lot of stories on Instagram and things like that. I see people's opinions, I see videos, I see what people say and hear, and I know that there's a shift. It's a very spiritual shift. I'm seeing people in different parts of the world having Bible days and marching for Jesus on streets and just hundreds and thousands of people, and all of in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. And so I kind of am trying to figure out where excuse me, where everybody where they're getting the opinions about a person who is trying to spill some truth on things. And I opened up the episode today by talking, a little bit about, I think that we've been lied to. We've been lied to about a lot of things. And there's been, proof of that even during the whole COVID thing. There were so many obvious things that were happening. There was a compilation of a bunch of news reporters across the country. And it's funny how they put this together. These news reporters from different cities around the country were saying exactly the same thing that had to do with, it's a threat to our democracy and all this kind of stuff about Trump and whatever. But it was really weird, word for word, and it's like, man, that's too scripted, And so I think there's a higher group, we'll say, some sort of, we'll say deep state or, some sort of elite group that has a lot of money that's able to do these kind of things. And I have my opinions, and I'm not going to go there as far as who it might be or what they might be doing. But I just think that there's an agenda for, political agenda, of course, and for power. I do believe, and again, this is my opinion based on what I've always talked about my experiences. This show is based on just my opinions, my experiences. I definitely am not stubborn in the sense where I'm just going to be bold and hard-headed and only think one way. I'm open to ideas. I definitely am a very open mind type of person. So that's where I'm trying to kind of understand this whole concept of how people are so happy that a person like Charlie has been assassinated, and not just, it wasn't just in his own home, privately. It was in front of millions of people, essentially. Now it is, of course, all the replays and so forth. And so I'm trying to understand why. Well, evil is exposing itself. I can promise you that. And here's the turn of events and the changes that I've seen in the last 6 days, whatever it's been. I witnessed a bunch of baptisms at church on Sunday, and I know that there was a lot more around the nation, which is people are now opening up to because here's the thing. I personally believe that when we witness things like this, it clearly shows you that there is evil on this planet, and evil comes from Satan himself. Okay, Lucifer. Okay, if you think about, if there's evil and there's the devil, don't you think there's another higher power too? God, Jesus, all that, right? So we definitely are in a position where it's exposing itself now. And so I think more people are realizing that, hey, there is a spiritual realm, and there's a way that I need to live my life, and I need to make some changes. I saw a video of a gentleman that was, he comes out and says, I don't have, he was sitting in a suit, it was on Instagram, of course. And he's standing in this suit, and he's like, I never came from money, neither did my wife, and I'm just so proud. We got an anniversary coming up, and my wife bought me this $300 suit. And he's almost tearing up at the time, and he's so happy that he bought this suit. And he comes out and he says, the other thing that really, I'm going to wear this suit to church too. I've never been a believer of Jesus and of God, and I'm going to go to church. And I, in my mind, of course, because he did mention Charlie Kirk right before he said, I'm going to go to church now. Okay, so I know that it's just examples like that. And very, very heartfelt gentleman, teared up after that, clearly. Very proud of his wife, and I almost teared up. I'm like, this is so cool. But it's a good thing to see. Obviously the evil is kind of showing itself, and I've seen more than just that. Not necessarily just referring to his assassination or any assassination whatsoever, but I'm referring to just things in general that are evil, in my opinion. I do believe, and again, this might be a really touchy subject for some people who have had that vaccine, that COVID-19 vaccine. it was just something fishy about it. And, you can trust the science and say that I don't trust the science, but my question to you is, what science are we talking about? Are we talking about the science that was paid for by the people that are displaying this information about COVID vaccines being safe? Which one is it? I mean, there's, again, money is powerful. Power. There's a lot of power in money, and people use it in a very evil way, in my opinion. I believe that there's some things now about the COVID vaccine shot that are coming out. I only want to say this. I'm going to a men's Bible group tonight after the show with my neighbor who has cancer. Well, his wife is a nurse, and she was administering the COVID vaccines when that time was around. I don't know if the cancer, they call it turbo cancer, and it's pretty aggressive in him. And I just pray to God that it's not because of that shot. Although part of me thinks it might be. Excuse me. I want to understand why things are the way they are, and why people have these opinions about a person that's all he's doing. Going back to Charlie Kirk again, about why he's just trying to spread some truth. And if I don't know if you guys know this, if you've watched Charlie Kirk speak, an incredibly intelligent man. Okay, very, very smart. And now they're showing some videos of him in the past, like some personal videos of him and his wife, and just their dialogue. And one video I just saw today of him, she would go around and say, "Hey, Charlie, what's the wisdom of the day, and what's the words of the day?" And he would come up with something really quick, and he'd say, things, like I can't remember any of them now. I'm on the spot now, but they were very inspirational. Like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And so my point in saying that is, very, very, very smart gentleman. Very, very Christian, clearly loved his, and that's one of the things he wants to be remembered. The most admirable thing he wants to be remembered by is the fact of his courage and faith in the Bible and in Christ, and knowing who God and Jesus are. So I do commend him in that, and I think that with regard to just his debates and when he was going to college campuses, and you should, if you've seen some of his turning point discussions on college campuses, these kids are rude, incredibly rude to him, and he doesn't get mad. He just comes back with, "Okay, well, let me ask you a question," and he puts them in a spot where they have to think. And I honestly think that's very offensive to people. And I think that's why sometimes you may not like somebody, is because they have a very good point and you have too much pride. Okay. I'm not a prideful person. I can tell you, any kicker that came in to compete with me in the NFL, I was not one of those guys that, make his life miserable and, do all these try to sabotage him or whatever. No, man, I was applauding these guys. They made it there. It's good that they've had an opportunity to compete for a job. Yes, it's my job, but I'm competing against myself. And so ultimately that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. I commend those. I give credit where credit's due. Okay. But some people can't do that. And when they're put in a spot, especially when you think about the minds that are being changed by the truths that Charlie was talking about, you understand that the truth is something that the devil is afraid of. The devil doesn't want us to know the truth. Evil doesn't want us to know what's really happening, the truth of everything around this planet. Okay. There's a lot of things I think that we've been really deceived in, and it's upsetting to me, because I always, when I see something like that, I think to myself, and I'm gonna curse. I'm gonna say the word hell. I'm saying, who the hell do you think you are? These people who are committing these crimes and killing people, and these elites that are making these rules when they're not even elected to do so. And, even Anthony Fauci made some decision. I'm like, who the hell are you to tell us, force these shots down our throats? You can't do that. And so again, I do apologize, but I'm very passionate about that kind of thing, because I don't like people walking on other people. I hate it. And I don't understand who gives the authority. The only authority, in my opinion, is God and Jesus. I mean, you're going to have to, these Christians and people who believe in it and will end up in heaven one day. You're going to have to talk to Jesus, and you're going to have to explain yourself. The real judgment day is that day. Okay, nobody can judge you except for Jesus Christ. Okay, you can't look at people and think that they have power over you just because. And I just don't understand that. And so I really kind of I want to know why there's so much hate out there. I know that there's Charlie's been called a Nazi. He's been called racist. He's been called a hater of gay relationships, and all of these things that he's been called and all of these things that people say he is, I don't necessarily believe that he is any of those. I think he has opinions about them. And I think, going back to my point, I think people don't like truth. And when he comes out with some truth in his opinion based on his knowledge, people don't like to hear that. And so they get offended. And so I think that's where they come up with this ideology that they want to label him as a racist, as a bigot, as a Nazi of all people. And sometimes Charlie will go on and he'll ask somebody, say, "Well, my dad thinks you're a racist," and of course he says, "Well, define racism." And the kid doesn't know a clue. He doesn't know how to define racism. Even like he had no good answer for him. Like racism, yeah, but it's basic stuff that Charlie will put people on the spot. And I think that we're in a position where that it's obvious that whoever killed him, whatever group it was, I think it was a planned assault. I think it was a planned assassination. We'll call it, of course. I think something was up with it. It wasn't, maybe it was the shooter. I don't know. Maybe it was a orchestrated. It was just done too well. Okay. And for a 22-year-old kid to be that good of a shot. Yeah. I'm not saying he wouldn't be, but whatever. My point is, and again, the gun, and it was dismantled on the roof, then reassembled in the wood. Things just don't add up. There's things that are not really making a lot of sense. And so, you can go back to the JFK assassination. There's some stuff about that I can go into, and 9/11 and things like that. I don't want to get too crazy with this. I just want to really, really, the emphasis of this episode is just to really, think about, death, and think about legacies, and think about how we remember people. And that's where my point really is shifting again now into the fact that I'm seeing some really positive stuff. Yeah, there's some negative things out there with people who are applauding, his assassination, and thankful that he's no longer on the earth. Which, again, I'm having a hard time understanding the hate and how hateful people can be. He was a human being. He was a father. He was a son. He was a husband. He had a family, and I don't know how it's okay for us as humans to applaud a death, especially like that. That was just, and of course, everyone saw it. I'm sure everyone's seen it by now, and it just was not a pleasant sight. So, but there are good things happening. I think this is a huge shift in Christianity. First off, I think that people are starting to understand that there is good and evil out there, and we want to choose a higher God, as far as be on the side of truth and the side of Jesus, and understanding the concepts of life after death. Where do you want to be? And if you believe in heaven, you believe in God and Jesus, and then what the Bible says, then I'm firm believer that we're going to end up in heaven. We're going to be living eternally with Jesus and God himself. So I do believe in that. And I'm just, as I'm doing the show, I'm looking over, my dog is moving around over there. I've got an old dog that is literally on his last legs. I mean, I can't say it any more bluntly than that. He's not doing well. He's got some neurological issues, and he's not really he's not really functioning very well. Like I have to kind of help him around and pick him up and carry him around in places. And he's a bigger dog, but he's lost a lot of weight, so it's not too bad. But my point in saying that is, yes, I'm going to be incredibly sad. He's the best dog. He was a rescue. He was a pit bull boxer, or he is a pit bull boxer. And, I'm going to be very, very sad when the time comes. And the last thing I want to do, I don't want to put him down. So I'm kind of hesitating for that, because I've never had to put a dog down before. They just kind of died by natural causes and so forth. But I just, I'm going to remember Dawson as like the happy dog, and just, I'm not going to remember him like this, because I believe in, obviously I want to remember him as a fun dog. He was a happy dog. He had a great life. I rescued him when he was like around 3 years old, but it's going to be a tough one for me when he goes. And just death in general. Like, how do we deal with death in general? I know that there's a lot of ways that people can grieve and mourn and all that, but in my my opinion, I'm going to be, I grieve later. I'm kind of in shock. I'm kind of like when a major death happens, I'm in shock. I'm in disbelief at first. But then, later on, after I realized that, yes, this is really, really reality, because sometimes you feel like that this is not happening. This is like a dream and you want to just wake up. Right. And it's scary. It's scary because you quickly realize it's not a dream and this is for real. Like the person you loved, and maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a brother or sibling or whatever that has, passed away. And sometimes obviously if it's not expected, then, that's even more of a shock. So, but such is life. I mean, life is full of all kinds of surprises, good and bad, clearly. But you have to understand that, we have to deal with it because we have no other choice. And that's really where I've kind of lived my life in situations where I found myself, down and out, or in a situation where I really I got to wake up and do something about, my first reaction is I have no other choice. I got to survive. I got to do this. I don't have a choice. There's no other choices out there. Right. And so usually it's up to me if I want to fix the problem or get out of what it is I'm involved in. So having that choice to do that is a great thing, because you do have the ability to get off, get up back on that horse, as they call it. If you fall off the horse, you get back on the horse and ride it again. So that's the concept, is really just, understanding that death is inevitable. We're all of us are going to be, dead sometime. We're all going to perish. We're all going to, go where we believe we're going to go, I believe. And, we're not going to be living on this earth for millions of years. Okay. And then the other thing that to think about is when you die and pass away, yes, at first everyone's going to, think about you and all this, but 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you're kind of forgotten. So my point in saying that is you're going to be forgotten anyways. Is, as far as like later on in life, maybe 100 years from now, people 100 years from now won't even really know of us, maybe, unless it's family, of course. But my point is that, you want to live your life right now, and life is very, very precious. Clearly, I'm a firm believer in having, you've got a soul and you've got a human body. Your body's your temple. But I'm a firm believer in, when you are born onto this earth and you are a human being, that is the most precious gift. And I feel fortunate to be alive and witnessing the stuff on this planet right now. And for people to abort babies and to kill others or whatever, fill in the blank, if they have taken away a life, or maybe it's a suicide, you've taken your own life, you don't realize how precious life is and how much of a gift it is. We are gifted. We take advantage of the opportunity that you've gotten from God and your Creator, to be on this earth and witness life, witness love, witness happiness, witness failure, witness sadness. Yes, those are not great things, but it comes with, makes you a stronger person. We develop as people on this planet, and we learn a lot about ourselves. And again, understanding how precious life is and how short life is. That's kind of the point I'm making, is the fact that it's a very short life. And so take advantage. Don't waste time. I even thought to myself today, as a matter of fact, that I was wasting some time. I'm out there watching Family Feud in my living room, and I got carried away. I'm like, man, I got some work to do. I'm wasting my time right here. That's not wasting time watching Family Feud, because I do love Family Feud. I don't know why. Steve Harvey's funny. I just love the answers that people give sometimes. It's hilarious. But I just want to, take advantage of the time that I have on this earth, with friends, with family, with loved ones, all that. And life is, again, precious. And it's sad that we live in a world right now where it seems to be acceptable to having people end other people's lives in your own world. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying the evil people, I'll call them out, that applaud, death, of Charlie Kirk, things like that. That to me is pure evil, in my opinion, because there's no reason for that. You have your opinion about a person, and for him to die for that, for your opinion about him, I don't think is fair. Clearly because of his personal life. Whoever killed Charlie Kirk, I'm talking to you now, whatever organization you are, I believe that you took away somebody's like gift. And not only was Charlie's life, I think, a gift for millions of people, and his intelligence, his knowledge, and the information, that the truth that he was spreading, and the things that he was doing, the good things he was doing. Only 31 years of life that he lived. Well, his legacy, and you've probably heard now that people are stepping up now, Turning Point stepping up. People are making more attempts to go on tours and speak in front of kids and at college campuses now. And a lot of journalists are making moves to help spread Charlie's message. So I think if you want to talk about the evil people that did this, I think it backfired on y'all. I think the death of Charlie Kirk backfired on you. And I'll say that publicly. I think that because of the changes in the things that I'm seeing, like you're all seeing, like everyone's like moving to the Bible and Jesus. And we're all kind of like, again, I don't know if you see it or not, but I'm seeing a huge movement in Christianity. And I love it. It's awesome. I think we all need, again, it's terrible that this was the eye opener that we kind of needed. But I think this is the beginning of something really, really big, as far as people, coming to know Jesus. And, I've even heard people talk about, look at the Bible. This is the end of times. This is exactly what's going to happen. These are the end days. I kind of believe it. I don't want to, in a sense where I like my life here, and but yeah. So when I perish and go to heaven, I'm hopefully I'll be living eternally with Jesus, and that's going to be even better. But that's my hope and dream and desire, clearly. But I do understand that, having this precious life on this earth right now and impacting others, that's one thing I really want to make sure that y'all, understand about me and my heart. I love impacting others. I love helping people. I love, giving people as much as I possibly can. I've caught myself thinking more about other people than myself even. And, it starts with myself. I got to take care of myself. And so I kind of ring myself back in, say, listen, I got to take care of myself, get, financially set again. Cause there's been some periods of time that I haven't been really financially set. And I got to kick in the butt again and get back on my horse and do it again. So, I definitely want to emphasize that, with this whole concept of life and what we've witnessed with Charlie Kirk and what is happening now, I think it gives people a different perspective on how to really understand what people really meant to us. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are really, really sad that Charlie is gone, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are carrying on his legacy and wanting to do, finish his work. And essentially, I know that there's even in, I think, South Korea, they showed this parade. I think it was a parade or some sort of gathering where these South Koreans were saying, "We are Charlie." And it's like, wow, okay, so Charlie's gone now, but we're all stepping up. We're gonna be the mouth of Charlie. We're gonna start spreading more truth, and we're gonna have dialogue with people. We're gonna talk with people. Not, again, you think about, again, I'm not going political with this, but the evil side of this is, when you take the dialogue away and you don't, they don't hear what they want to hear. They don't agree with your opinion. Instead of, debating with you and kind of trying to prove different points and kind of come to an agreed upon sort of conclusion, they want to go to violence. And again, that wasn't the answer, because it actually made it worse for the evil side, in my opinion. Okay. So I think that it backfired on them. I think that, that we are all stepping up, and it's making people realize, more so now than ever, in my opinion, that of course, my short time on this earth, I do believe that this is one of the most incredible shifts of thought in religion that's ever happened, because of what people thought about Charlie. And again, I would love to see any sort of video or debate or something that Charlie had to somebody who really, he came out as a bigot. He came out as a racist. He was incredibly racist. And again, I haven't seen any of that. Again, I don't know if it's out there, but I just have seen enough of Charlie Kirk to know and see through his soul and see his heart. You can tell he's a very genuine person. He was a very genuine person. So, again, I just feel that there's a lot more to this whole thing. I think that we're going to come out on a high note, a higher note. I think things are going to start, cruising. I think there's going to be a lot of positivity from this event, even though it's a shame that this event had to happen. But you ask God this question. You pray to Jesus, say, listen, why do good people die? It's incredible. I've witnessed, not witnessed personally, but I've had friends and people that I've been acquaintance with that I've known. I knew Meatloaf, the singer Meatloaf. Me and him were buddies. Actually, I was his fantasy kicker back in the day, and I met him at a Kentucky Derby party years ago. We exchanged numbers and we had communicated. We weren't like tight buddies, but if I called him up, he would know. He'd answer, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" And then Meatloaf dies on on the operating table when he had some procedure done on his back or something. I can't remember the exact reason why. I think it was that, but my point is that he was a great man. He was I don't know what your opinion is about Meatloaf or what he sang some, he had some crazy videos and all that, but he was a very genuine, heartfelt man, and I knew him personally, and so it is a wonder. It's one of those wonders of the world. Like, why do good people die? And why do bad people not? There's a lot of bad people that do bad things that have amazing lives. And, you have to kind of, figure that out on your own and just do what you think is right. So with that said, I don't want to, take up too much time. I said this might be a little shorter one, but it really hasn't been. It's been pretty typical of my times. But just want to say I love you all and take advantage of the time you have on this earth. Be good to your neighbor. Love, support, help, and encourage. And understand that life is incredibly precious. It's a gift. And take advantage of that in a very positive way. Make an impact on the people around you and love yourself. So with that said, I hope you guys have an amazing Monday night. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.